Hello, I'm Kathy McMakin. And when we talk about sewing through the decades, we have to add heirloom sewing because people have been heirloom sewing for a very, very long time. And with today's technology, it makes it so easy. Today we're going to talk about heirloom sewing by Serger. And so if you look at our little day gown that we're going to create for you a little later on, you can see that there are several techniques on a little day gown that you can actually use in other projects as well. So that's the reason a day gown is something really nice to start with. So let's get started and let's show you how easy it is to do these techniques by Serger. We have our serger set today for a rolled hem with a slightly longer stitch length. Now in your books it's going to tell you that you would probably want to do a rolled hem on a 1 stitch length. Well, we've upped that to about a 2 stitch length because we're actually not binding an edge, but we're just doing a seam and we're overcasting that seam at the same time with that rolled hem. So probably one of the techniques that you're going to use the most is lace to fabric. So if we look over here, you're going to see that we have a piece of edging lace, and a piece of edging is a piece of lace with one straight side and one scallop side. The straight side of the lace is called your heading, and your heading is what you want to make sure when you serge, you want to make sure you catch that heading in that roll seam. So what we'll do is we're going to offset the lace away from the edge of the fabric because the fabric will ravel and your lace will not. You can never ever your whole entire life do you put those edge to edge. You're always going to offset your edging or your insertion lace. You're always going to offset it at least a 1/16 of an inch or even an 1/8 of an inch. And the good thing about using your serger is it's going to cut off the fabric it does not need. Then once you get it rolled in, it's going to look like this with that beautiful rolled hem. All the excess has been cut off, but just the right amount is rolled in so that you have a nice sturdy seam. Now let me just show you how easy it is to do that. So as we place this up under our serger, we are going to have to know where our needle sews. And on this serger, I love this foot because it has a wall that sticks up. Your needle on this serger is going to sew just a bit to the left of the wall. So we want the heading of the lace to the right of the needle. Heading of the lace to the right of the needle. Sometimes you have marks on the toe of your foot that indicate your needle marks. You would put the heading of the lace to the right of your right needle mark. In this case, all we have to do, our little song that we can sing while we use this foot, is heading of the lace under the wall. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to place your 2 pieces right on top of each other. We want a little bit of fabric extended, and we're going to place it so that we really don't care where the edge of our fabric is. We are watching the heading of the lace. Now remember our song, heading of the lace under the wall. And then you're just going to sew, and you can see with our serger, our needle sews back into the serger. So you really have to watch the front of your foot to make sure that you have lined it up correctly. And then you just have to have faith that by the time it gets back to your needle that it is sewing correctly. Okay, I'll take that out. Okay. Now we have a beautiful rolled hem. Now we're going to use those same techniques and that same rolled hem, and we're going to do some other techniques. So what you're going to do, if we do edging lace to bridging, all you have to do is place your edging lace on top of your bridging so that the heading falls just beyond your bridging. And you want the heading to be laying on top of the fabric. We are going to place the piece underneath the foot, and we're going to put the heading of the lace to the right of your bridging, and we're going to sew in the ditch of your bridging. Now, the ditch of the bridging is where the fabric meets the ladder. So let's take it and put it up under the foot, and we get to practice sewing in the ditch of bridging quite a bit. So in this one, we have two things that we're looking at. So it's kind of like patting your head and rubbing your stomach. So it just takes a little bit of practice. Easy, easy. Now we'll open this up. And do you see how pretty that is? It's just the edging is attached to your bridging. Now let's do one other technique, and we'll talk about another technique, and then we'll do your little day gown. To do bridging to fabric, we want to stitch right in this stitch, just like we did before with our edging lace. So it's a little easier when you're doing it with just fabric and you don't have a piece of edging on top of it. So we're going to put the right hand bar of the bridging to the left-hand side of the wall so that our needle sews right in the ditch, and our rolled hem ends up on the fabric side. So you can see, now if we were doing this same technique by sewing machine, it takes 3 steps. You stitch in the ditch with a straight stitch, then you trim down, and then you overcast with a zigzag. So you can see how beautiful that is, just lovely. We also have gathered fabric to bridging, and it's the same exact technique. The only difference is we have to gather the fabric first. So we can either do that with our serger or run 2 rows of straight stitching, gather it, and then we would lay our bridging right on top of our gathered fabric and serge in place with the needle thread in the ditch of your bridging. And so this is an example of the ends of our sleeve. So we need that right now. Now, to make this little day gown, it's going to be very simple, and we're just going to flip through these boards so that you can see how easily it all goes together. We take these pieces, we're going to serge these together to create the front band. Once we get the front band created, it looks like this. We attach fabric on each side of that. Then we're going to lay our pattern down on top of the created fabric, and we are going to trace around our pattern to make sure that everything ends up nice and square on our piece. If you'll notice, you want, even though you're lining up your pattern right down the center, you always want to make sure you have about the same amount of fabric on each side of your band if you have something that is running right down the front of your piece. Now, to do a placket with your serger, all you do is straighten the ends of your fabric out like that so that they form a straight line, and that is the slice that's right down the back edge of this gown. You're going to take it, once you lay the piece out flat, the cut edges, then you take the excess fabric and you just push those down into a dart. You can even pull your dart over one more time like this. And do you see how now we've created a straight line that we can sew using the rolled hem on our serger? So you'll just roll hem that together, and here is what that looks like. And so do you see how that just went through your serger very, very straight? And once you get your cut edge overcast using a rolled hem, then you're going to go to the sewing machine, and you just fold your 2 placket edges together, you sew in a 7, and then you're going to press one side under about 1/4 inch, and it will lay right on top of the other side. So that's how easy it is to create the placket. Once you get the placket created, then you're ready to sew your shoulder seams in place. We've just done that with a 3-thread overlock. You're going to put your neck binding in, which is about 1 3/4 inch, and then it's folded in half. And we have one done here for you, so you can see how when we move this, we just start on one end, and we're just going to serge the binding right to the neck as we straighten as we go. You want to leave a little, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch tab on each end of that, and then you're going to be ready to press the neck binding up and over that seam, and then you can glue that binding down, and then you're going to top stitch it in place by machine. And we have an example of that right here. So do you see how there's a little stitch in the ditch, straight stitch right here? Then when you get ready to put in your sleeves, we're going to use a flat method of putting in your sleeve. You run 2 gathering threads in the top, through 2 gathering threads in the bottom. You're going to gather those up to the measurements in your pattern, and then on the end of the sleeve you're going to create a band of bridging and edging lace, and you're going to attach the bridging and edging lace band to the gathered fabric on the end of the sleeve. So you're going to have 2 sleeves created. You gather the top edge of your sleeve to fit your arm opening. You serge those in place, and then we're going to be ready to serge our side seams in place. So you just open out your piece, and there's a product called that is Washaway basting tape, and it is wonderful for serging because it's a double-sided paperback sticky, and all you do, one of the easiest things to do is on any seam that you have that you want to make sure that this join and this join match each other, is you use that Washaway basting tape right against the seam, and then you can stick the 2 pieces together, and that way you can check to see if they line up. If they don't line up, because that one's a little off, then I can just unstick and restick and get those right back into place. Now, when we finish, we can add our little button loop with our serger button loop was created with a rolled hem. That's just a serger tail set up on a rolled hem, and you just serge along serger tail, and you can fold that into a button loop, and you can actually sew that in to create your button on the back of your precious little day gown.